My sister stood in my living room holding a 3-month-old baby, looked me dead in the eye, and asked if I could babysit for the weekend so she and my ex-husband could go on a romantic getaway. I'm not making that up. She literally looked at the woman whose life she shattered, holding the child she had with my former spouse, and thought, yeah, she seems like a great free option for childcare. Asterisk. I was so stunned I couldn't even form words at first. I just stared at her, then at the baby, then back at her face, trying to see if there was even a shred of embarrassment. There wasn't. She was dead serious. If you're new here, subscribe, I post a new story every day. Okay, so to truly understand how completely unhinged this ask was, we have to go back to how this whole nightmare started. Because 2 years ago, I thought I had a totally normal life. I was married to a guy named Mark. We'd been together for 5 years, lived in a quiet neighborhood, and were actively trying to start a family of our own. And then there was my younger sister, Chloe. Chloe and I had always been close growing up, or at least, I thought we were. She was always a bit impulsive, always needed extra attention, but I never in a million years thought she was capable of betraying me like this. About 18 months ago, Mark started acting distant. Working late, hiding his phone, the classic red flags everyone warns you about. I kept asking him if everything was okay, and he'd just tell me I was being paranoid or stress from work was getting to him. Meanwhile, Chloe was coming over to our house constantly. She'd drop by unannounced, hang around while Mark was fixing things around the house, and I didn't think twice about it. I mean, why would I? That was my sister. Well, fast forward a few months, and the bomb drops. I came home early from work one Tuesday afternoon because I wasn't feeling well. I walked into the house, heard whispering coming from the kitchen, and walked in to find Mark with his hands around Chloe's waist, kissing her. Not a friendly cheek peck. A full-on, secret relationship kiss. Now here's where I'd have lost it completely, but in that exact moment, my brain just went completely numb. I dropped my keys on the counter, and they both spun around like deer caught in headlights. And you know what Mark said? He didn't even apologize right away. He just looked at me and said, "We were going to tell you." Asterisk. Unbelievable. I threw him out that same night, and Chloe left right behind him. Within a week, the divorce papers were being drafted. Now, if that was where the story ended, it would already be terrible enough, right? Would you ever be able to speak to a sibling again after catching them red-handed like that? Let me know below. But it gets so much worse. A month after the separation, while Mark and I were still hashing out the legal details, Chloe drops the ultimate bombshell on the family group chat. She posts a picture of a positive pregnancy test. She was pregnant with Mark's child. They had been sleeping together for months behind my back while Mark and I were actively trying for a baby. My parents were horrified, my friends were disgusted, and I officially cut all contact with both of them. I blocked their numbers, blocked them on social media, and moved into a new apartment across town just to get away from the toxicity. For a whole year, I rebuilt my life. I went to therapy, focused on my career, and finally got to a place where I felt like a human being again instead of a walking wound. And then came last Saturday. I was sitting on my couch enjoying a quiet Saturday afternoon when there was a knock at my front door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked through the peephole. It was Chloe. I hadn't seen her face in over a year. She was standing there on my porch, holding a baby carrier with a little infant wrapped in a blanket. My heart instantly sank straight into my stomach. I opened the door just a crack and asked her what on earth she was doing at my apartment. She had this bizarrely casual look on her face, like we were just old friends catching up. She said our mother gave her my new address because she was in a real bind. Wait, read that part again in your mind, because I couldn't believe it either. She actually had the audacity to use our mother to hunt down where I lived. She stepped right past me into my hallway without even being invited in. She pointed to the baby and said, "This is Leo. Mark and I have been so exhausted lately, and we really need a break." Asterisk. I just stood there, completely speechless. She then went on to explain that Mark had booked a resort weekend for them to celebrate their anniversary, yes, the anniversary of them stepping out on me, and their babysitter cancelled at the last minute. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Since you're his aunt, I thought it would be a great way for you two to bond. Plus, you don't have kids, so you have the time." Asterisk. I'll be honest, I didn't expect what came next out of my own mouth. I thought I would scream, or cry, or smash a plate. Instead, a strange, calm wave of realization washed over me. I looked at my sister, looking at the child born out of the ultimate betrayal of my life, and realized she wasn't just selfish, she was completely delusional. She genuinely believed that time had passed, so everything was magically fine now. I pointed straight toward the open front door. I told her, "You have 5 seconds to take your child and get off my property, or I am calling the police for trespassing." Asterisk. Her face completely dropped. She actually looked offended. She started whining, saying, "Are you really still holding a grudge over that? Mark and I are happy, and Leo is your nephew. You're being so bitter." Asterisk. Calling me bitter because I didn't want to watch the baby my ex-husband had with my sister while they went on a romantic trip. You honestly cannot make this stuff up. I didn't argue with her. I pulled out my phone, dialed the first 2 digits of emergency services, and held the screen up to her face. She finally realized I wasn't playing around. She grabbed the baby carrier, muttered a bunch of insults under her breath about how cold-hearted I was, and stormed out down the hallway. After she left, I called my mother immediately. I asked her why in the world she would give Chloe my secret address. My mom started crying on the phone, saying she just wanted the family to heal, and that Chloe had convinced her I was ready to move on. I had to set a firm boundary with my mom right then and there. I told her that if she ever shared my personal information with Chloe or Mark again, I would be cutting contact with her, too. It was harsh, but sometimes you have to protect your peace at all costs, even from family members who mean well but enable toxic behavior. Looking back on it now, that moment at the door was actually the final closure I needed. For months, I wondered if I would ever get over the anger or if I'd always feel like the victim in their story. But seeing her stand there, completely lacking any self-awareness, made me realize how lucky I actually am. I lost a cheating husband and a toxic sister in one fell swoop, but I kept my self-respect. They have to live with what they did, and clearly, the dynamic between them is already built on a foundation of deceit and delusion. Sometimes, people who hurt you will act like nothing happened just to relieve their own guilt. You don't owe anyone forgiveness just because time has passed, and you certainly don't owe them a favor. What would you have done if your sibling showed up at your door like that? Would you have even opened the door in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories every single day, and I'll see you in the next confession.